How can you understand native speakers? That's what I'm going to show you in this video. Coming up. Hey friends, Teacher Prix here to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime in English. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on another lesson. If it's your first time here, hey, consider subscribing because from Monday to Friday, I post all kinds of English lessons, grammar, listening, speaking tips, study tips, all kinds of lessons to help you become a better and more confident English speaker. So hey, consider subscribing. But let's get down to business. Today, I am going to show you how you can understand native speakers. What do you need to do? Okay, so I'm going to be giving you some tips, some ideas of things you need to consider if you want to understand native speakers, okay? Now, the first thing you need to understand is the difference between a teacher who is a native speaker and a native speaker. And why do I say that? Many English learners come to me here on YouTube and they say, "Teacher, I understand you. I understand the American teachers or Australian teachers or Canadian teachers. But when I watch a native speaker, I don't. What's the problem? What's wrong with me?" First of all, nothing wrong with you. But there is a difference between a native English teacher and a native speaker. The first is worried about you. The first wants you to understand. The first is teaching you English, idioms, expressions, interesting things about their country. The second is not. The native speaker is not worried about helping you understand him. The native speaker is not going to teach you English, teach you expressions, idioms. No. And that's something you need to understand. Just because you understand me or an English teacher who is a native doesn't mean you are going to understand a native speaker. And why? Well, for all the reasons I gave you before, but also because they are talking about different things. The teacher is teaching. The native speaker is not. The native speaker may be talking about science, about biology, about gossip, about movies, sports, literature, philosophy, history, geography, climate change, politics. So this person is not worried about teaching you English. And why am I starting this lesson with this point? You need to come up with strategies that will help you understand this second guy, the native speaker that doesn't care about teaching you English. He's just sending a message. He's just talking to you, okay? The next thing you need to analyze is the things you watch in English, okay? And here it's very common for English learners to emphasize how many TV series they watch and how amazing it is, but when it comes to real life, they don't understand. Well, my recommendation here, if you watch a lot of TV shows, is to stop only using your favorite TV shows as a way to improve your English comprehension of native speakers. So if you have problems to understand native speakers, if you are trying to understand native speakers more, only TV series will not cut it, okay? And why is that? You are probably watching TV series that you like. So you are watching as a way to entertain yourself for fun because you enjoy. Most of the time, when we are watching a TV show that we like, we are not thinking about English. We are having fun. We want to know about what happens to Meredith Grey, or what happens to Dean Winchester, or what happens to those kids in Stranger Things. I don't know their names. But we are not focused on listening, on comprehension. We are not doing anything at that moment. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but what I'm trying to show you here is there is a lot happening when you are watching a TV show. So this may not be the best exercise, okay? You can do more. You can keep watching TV series, but this is not the best way to improve your listening comprehension, especially if you understand the shows but don't understand the native speakers in real life, okay? Now, the next thing that I want to point out is you need to realize that if you want to improve your listening comprehension, you also need to improve your vocabulary, yeah, and your structure. These things, they go together. If you have problems to understand native speakers, your vocabulary and your structure are probably weak. I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm probably gonna get some dislikes, but it's the truth. To improve your comprehension, you need to improve how many words you know. You need to improve your list of vocabulary. Many English learners believe that they have a bad listening, when in reality, they just have a bad vocabulary. When you start to learn more words, more expressions, more verbs, more vocabulary than native speakers actually use, you will begin to see the difference. Moving on to the next tip, which is connected to this one. You also need to connect reading to your listening practice, okay? If you have problems to understand native speakers, this could also mean that you are focusing too much on the listening and you are ignoring other important activities. By reading more materials in English, you will be better prepared to increase your vocabulary, increase your level of comprehension, so that by the time you speak to a native speaker, you have a better variety of subjects, of materials that you have been studying and working on, okay? It doesn't mean that you will understand a native speaker 100%, but as I always like to say, everything is connected. If you want to be able to talk more, you need to read more, see more vocabulary, understand different kinds of subjects. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So don't worry. Now, many of you may use YouTube, and I imagine that you are watching my lesson because you enjoy studying English, and this is a wonderful step, but it's one step. We need to learn to explore YouTube wisely, okay? Now, following American teachers or Canadian teachers, Australian, British, that's incredible. Keep doing that. But at the end of the day, if you are having problems to understand native speakers, it's because you're focusing too much on these kind of videos teaching English. So it's time that you become open to possibilities, open to opportunities, to new horizons, to different channels. A few weeks ago, I used a video with some clients where I showed, I think, Bill Gates. And it was interesting because my students were like, wow, it's a little difficult to understand him. And I was like, yeah, I know, because it's the first time you were listening to Bill Gates. You never paid attention before. He has some mannerisms. His way of talking is a little bit different. So how do you get better at understanding Bill Gates? By listening to Bill Gates. So if you watch a native speaker talking on YouTube and you have problems to understand that person, you have to watch more from that person, because then your brain will begin to decipher that person and help you understand what aspects of that person's speaking are difficult for you and how you can improve that. And then next time, if you start to listening to Elon Musk and he's difficult for you, you have to watch more videos, because then you will begin to feel a little bit more comfortable. And all these difficult people you find on YouTube that are speaking English, speaking about subjects that you are not familiar with, will help you build your listening comprehension, will help you expand your comprehension in English. And that's how you improve your listening in the real world, so that you can understand native speakers, okay? I am always challenging myself, watching native speakers on YouTube or on other platforms. And these native speakers are usually difficult native speakers that have a very difficult way to express themselves, or maybe they speak too fast, or maybe they speak too slow, but they use very complicated vocabulary, or maybe they have certain mannerisms, they cover their mouth, or they don't open their mouth well. So all of that is helping me for the real world when I have to talk to someone in real life and understand them. And finally, the final piece of advice I have for you here: be present. When you are practicing listening, this requires being in the moment, focusing on the present, on now. So don't let your mind wander when you sit down to practice your listening. Because if you do that a lot, you will never really know how much you are improving, because you're always paying attention to something else. Okay, so be present. For whatever it is that you're doing, be present. Focus on now. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I want to know about you. Why do you think it's difficult for you to understand native speakers? Let me know here in the comments, because maybe from your experience I can create another video and talk about the things that you mentioned that are difficult for you. So I would love to know that. And if possible, if you enjoyed this lesson, if this lesson helped you and gave you some insight, how about sharing this video with your friends on your social media, or maybe sending to a WhatsApp group, or sharing with someone that you know will benefit from watching this video. It helps the channel grow, but you are also helping someone who needs to see this message today. Other than that, my friends, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.